Hi, welcome to lecture number 8 of the process mining course. In this video, I'm going to explain the different phases of any process mining project, and I'm gonna introduce you how to do pre-processing in Python of the event logs. This lecture is composed of 3 videos. The first 2 videos is about introducing the different phases of the process mining projects, and the third video is introducing you of how to perform pre-processing of event logs using Python. Let's start. Previously in this course, we have already discussed the different capabilities of the process mining, the automated process discovery, the conformance checking, the performance mining, and the variant analysis. Also, in the previous lecture, we have already covered the simulation and what-if scenarios in the process mining. In this lecture, we are going to deal with the project management and data preparation for process mining. There is this standard of the project management for process mining, which formulates the projects into 5 main steps. The first one is problem framing, where you formulate the problem into questions and hypotheses that you need to validate. The second step is data collection, where you gather data from different data sources, and you can perform data pre-processing, extraction, transform, and load of the data before performing the analysis. The third phase is about performing the process analysis, as we have already explained in the previous 7 lectures. And after that, we perform result interpretation and business impact creation. In this slide, we gathered the main 5 phases of the project structures, and that includes what kind of tasks you will do there, who are going to be included in every phase, and the outcomes of every phase of the phases. The first phase is about problem framing, where first you identify the key stakeholders and you establish the goals from your project, and then you identify what are the key outcomes that they are the stopping criteria for this project. And you will include the executive manager, the process owner, and the business analyst as you. Also, the outcome are going to be to have this kind of strategic alignment between the members of the team. Like, you are going to align the understanding about the business process with the other executive manager and the process owner. In the second phase, after you have already performed and identified this kind of goals, you need to know the data sources for these goals. So you will identify the key data sources. You will identify what kind of keys in order to join tables. Also, you will perform extraction from the database. You need to transform the data into a specific format before performing the analysis, and then you can load the data. The roles that are going to be included in this step are the data engineer, who is going to perform this kind of ETL tasks for you, and the business analyst as you. The outcome of this project is gonna be a data that is cleaned and ready to be analyzed using any process mining tool. The third phase is about performing process analysis. So you dig deeper to answer this question that you said at the first phase using any of the capabilities that we have explained in this course. The key players in this phase is you, just you, the business analyst. You are going to perform the analysis, and the outcome of this phase is going to be the models, the performance statistics, and the variant differences, the variant analysis of every metric. So you will provide the outcome of the process mining capabilities there. And after that, you interpret the results with the process owner, and you identify the root cause of every issue that you have, of the bottlenecks that you have. And the last phase is to create the impact. So you perform reasoning to prove or to validate your hypothesis using quantities of what are the benefits from performing this kind of policies, and what are going to be the costs if we don't do that. And then you need to include people like the executive manager, the process owner. The outcome of this phase is going to be the realization of the benefit, and hopefully the company or the organization would apply your suggestions. The first phase of the project is about problem framing. In this phase, you need to identify what are the stakeholders that you need to include into your project. Identifying stakeholders and including them in your project will enable you to make take actions and the recommendations that are going to be beneficial for the organization. In this step, you would formulate your problem as a question that you need to answer through your analysis, and also you need to formulate some hypotheses that you need to validate. For example, you may have this hypothesis that the delay is caused by some bottlenecks in the warehouse, for example. So you need to have this hypothesis, and you need to provide reasoning based on the analysis that happens after that in order to validate this hypothesis. In that way, you will have a better and efficient way of framing your problem. And then you need to have a stopping criteria for the project. So you have the goals. Like, for example, you can have 3 hypotheses that you need to validate. After validating these hypotheses, this project is going to be end, and every update that comes later can be a separate project. In the organization, there are a lot of business processes that you can enhance or improve within the organization. And then we need to select the proper business processes that you can enhance. We do that based on some criteria. The first criteria to select the business process is the health. First, is it like a bad business process or a good one but needs just a little bit enhancement? If it's a bad business process, it means that you will have a larger contribution there. So the amount of enhancement that you will do will be greater for the organization. The importance. Is it an important process for the organization? Is it being executed by many people, or is just rare for 10 customers or something? You would like to end up with important business processes, because improving such processes will have a large impact on your organization. The feasibility, which is the third criteria. The feasibility is it feasible to apply your recommendation or not? Are the people that you are working with open to changing or performing the changes that you are going to recommend or not? And the last criteria is the data. Is the data available for you to perform such analysis that you aim for or not? So this is the 4 criteria in order to select your process. The second phase of the process mining projects is the data collection. In this phase, we have different data sources that we need to identify. The data can come from SAP, from Oracle, from PPM systems, other PPM systems. So we need to identify what are the data sources there. And then we need to identify the entities and the relation between the entities, because sometimes we will need to do join between tables. And after that, after identifying the sources, we need to extract the data from the database. After that, we need to perform some transformation. Maybe we can perform some pre-processing for the data, joining some tables, providing some aggregate attributes there. And after that, we load the data into a specific place or the staging part of the database that the process mining tool will work with. Some tasks that you need to include into your pre-processing is like identifying key instance document or objects. In your process, if it's like an order invoice business process, you need to identify what is order exactly and what is the invoice. Where do they exist in the database? Also, you need to identify what is exactly the case identifier, because some business processes comes with complexity with identifying the case identifier. You need to find a way of setting the case identifier. The second step, task that you can perform is identifying the milestones. For example, if it's a purchase order business process, you need to identify where is the purchase order creation, where is the validation of the purchase order, and where is the payment. These are called the main milestones. And after knowing the main milestones, you can know the activities which are included in every milestone and the activities between each milestone. And after that, you can identify what are the case attributes and what are the event attributes. The case attributes are the attributes that do not change within the case. Like, for example, the age of a patient, that can be a case attribute. An event attribute is an attribute that changes with an event. For example, if you have a process that includes offering people some amount, like an offer with a cost, that offer has an attribute called cost, and the cost changes for every offer. So that's an event attribute that changes with every event. Also, it can be a treatment that you perform for the user, and what kind of medical measurement that you need to quantify and attach with the event. So the event attribute changes with every event and the event log. And after that, you perform the data extraction. How to extract the data? Will you use an SQL? Will you use a Spark? Will you use another big data tool or something? Event log pre-processing and transformation. Some of the event logs, they have case identifier issues. Like, we don't know which attribute should be used as a case identifier, or they may be multiple case identifiers, or there would be more than one business process. We will have also timestamp issues, because the timestamp is very critical for the activities, like ordering the activities, like the execution time for every activity, and also the activity labels, because some labels sometimes come with some issues, as we will see in the practice with Python, and we have also other issues. Let's start with the case identifier issues. In some event logs, like if we have a hospital event log, and that log or database, we have different treatment processes. If we need to focus on a single treatment, then we need to have a case identifier that will distinguish the cases that belongs to these different treatment and the treatment within each treatment. So we can, in such a case, we can combine more than one identifier in order to build a quasi case ID by combining different attributes. The timestamp in the event log. First of all, we need to make sure that there is a specific format for the timestamp in order to parse it in our tool. The second thing is we need to make sure that this timestamp is composed of date and time, because if we don't have the time part, we can't order the activities within the same day. So we need to make sure that we have the right granularity of the timestamp. If we have the timestamp with both the date and time, that would be okay. If we don't, we need to create some kind of sequence for the activities within the trace. Like, we can create a new attribute that defines a sequence of executing the activities within the same trace. And then we can use that as a replacement for the time within the timestamp, because we need to preserve the sequence of activities within the same trace. Also, for the timestamp, sometimes you have a start and end timestamp, and most of the time you have just only the timestamp. We need to know how to transform from one end timestamp into the start and end timestamp of every activity, or we need to make sure that if we have other attributes that helps us to, in order to identify the start and end timestamp within the event log, we can formulate that into separate columns called start timestamp and end timestamp, as we will see in the Python practice session. And then the activity labeling issues. In some of the activities, we may have an activity that has an ID with it, a number with it, a specific case ID attached to the activity label. We need to trim that. We need to include also the activities that are relevant to the analysis, because in some event logs we may have like thousands of activities there, but we have only relevant activities and irrelevant activities. So sometimes we need to perform this kind of filtration of the activities or activity labels that do not belong to the analysis. So we need to perform that too in the pre-processing stage. We have also other event log issues. We have the incomplete cases. We have some cases that do not complete within the capturing time or the capture period of the event log. We need to perform filtering in order to keep only the cases that has been already finished, as we have already explained in previous lectures. We have also noisy events. Like some events are very rare. They are being executed 3 times out of 1,000 cases. The existence of such events will make some noise inside the event log and for the process map when you read them. Filtering such event logs will be beneficial for the organization because it will make the process map very concentrated and very easy to read. The third issue that we have is like concept drift. Sometimes at a specific time, an organization buys a new system or applies a change to the process execution within the organization. At that date, the process execution changes totally from the previous one. So we have 2 different process execution in the same event log. So you can use the separation date in order to split the event log into 2 different event logs, one before the change and one after the change. So you will perform after that the analysis separately for every event log there. So that is what we call the concept drift. And lastly, the missing values in the event log. Event logs are like any table from the database. It can contain null values. It's your job to make sure that null values do not exist there, and if they exist, you should find some kind of a replacement for them in the pre-processed event log. And that was the main cases that we have with the attributes of the event log. We can also have derived attributes. There are some kind of attributes that will help the analysis. Like for example, if you need to have the cost of every case or the cost of every activity, that's a derived attribute. You need to calculate it by joining the table of the event log with the table of costs and provide the cost per activity based on the duration. Or also you can provide the cost per case. That would help you during the analysis when you calculate the cases that are conformant with SLAs or not. So you will have a simple filter when you have derived attributes. So just design the derived attributes in order to help you with your future analysis. The last pre-processing step for the event log is log anonymization. Log anonymization, it's there to hide the identities of individuals within the event log. Due to the data regulations such as GDPR, it is very restricted to process the data of some users without taking their consent to process the data. In order to circumvent that, we perform some kind of anonymization. We can perform a masking for the case identifiers in order to prohibit the re-identification of cases to their original users. Also, we can use a different anonymization techniques such as key anonymity and differential privacy. It's a recently growing field for the process mining. And that was the end of the second phase of the process mining project. In the next video, I'm gonna continue explaining the other 3 phases, and I'm gonna give a use case for a bank in Australia that have enhanced their business process using process mining. See you in the next video.